What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the two new upcoming packages, the physical infrastructure package, which is part one, and the next stimulus package, which is part two of the Build Back Better package that is currently being negotiated on right now. Also, we discuss what's going on in Washington, D.C., and what is going on with the world and the United States today. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new updates. I will be keeping you up to date on all sorts of different stimulus programs. I just had a recent video about state, city, and county stimulus check programs all across the United States, literally dozens of different programs we went over. I'll link you to that video at the end of this video if you haven't seen that. And I just did a recent update video on Social Security raises that President Biden wants to do, as well as the Democrats. I will link you to both of those videos at the end of this video, both very important videos. But for right now, let's jump into this video. First, we have two different groups right now negotiating over a potential infrastructure deal. One group from the Senate, which does have Senator Joe Manchin in there, have already come to a deal, at least amongst themselves, with 10 different senators, 5 Republican, 5 Democrats. The other group that is negotiating, which is a larger group of around 50 congressmen and congresswomen, is called the Problem Solvers Caucus, and they are working on negotiating a deal as well for the infrastructure package. Here is part of the Problem Solvers Caucus group right now to give you the details.
We have Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican of Pennsylvania, Problem Solvers Caucus co-chair, also California Democrat Scott Peters. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you, and thank you for taking the time. Chairman, if I could begin with you on what this plan involves and how different it might be from the Republican plan that the president essentially rejected. Can you update me?
Sure, Neil. Thanks for having us. We have a very simple motto. We'd rather, get 80% of something than 100% of nothing. We looked at both the Republican and Democrat proposal. We saw what the criticisms were from the opposite party, and we tried to put something together that, obviously nobody's in love with, Neil. That's the whole point of compromise. That's the sort of the essence of our caucus. Nobody's in complete love with the plan, but everybody's okay with it. And that's the only way you get bipartisan compromise. So we came up with a price tag that was almost dead in the middle of the two competing proposals. It's about $1.25 trillion over an 8-year period. It covers, a lot of buckets that upset the Republicans, a lot of buckets that upset the Democrats. It was probably too pricey for the Republicans, not enough money for the Democrats, but we were able to get 75% of our 58-member caucus to get on board with it, and we've taken the lead. And now the Senate's going to do the same. Kirsten Sinema, Bill Cassidy are taking the lead for us in the Senate. If they come up with something similar, which we think they will, we'll marry the two proposals. We will have a bipartisan, bicameral option for the administration to consider.
Congressman Peters, have you heard, or have either of you heard from the president and whether the White House finds your proposal intriguing?
Well, I often say that people ask me about Joe Biden. I want to say thank you to Joe Biden for giving us this list of things that we know he would support, assuming we can figure out a way to pay for it. And obviously, we, as Brian said, we have to look for points of agreement. And there's so much agreement on a lot of this hard infrastructure, the bridges, the roads, the broadband, the electric grid. We can't let that opportunity go by. So what we can do for the president and present to the president is some agreement among members of Congress. All of us were elected the same day as Joe Biden. If I think we can get the votes together and a proposal together, I think it's got to be attractive.
So yeah, this week is going to be a very big week. Both the House of Representatives and the Senate are in session, and we will likely see if they're going to come to an agreement between one of these two negotiating parties right now, the Problem Solvers Caucus, as well as the other group that doesn't really have a name from the Senate. That is both bipartisan with Democratic Senator Joe Manchin in there, who is a key crucial vote for the Democrats if the Democrats decide to go it alone and combine the two package and pass the next stimulus package, which is the American Families Plan, and the next stimulus pack or the next infrastructure package, which is the American Jobs Plan, and combine them back together, which is originally how they started, and pass it through the reconciliation process, which means they'll pass it without the Republicans. To do that, they will need 50 to 51 votes in the Senate. They'll need all 50 of their Democrats to vote yes. If that happens, all 50 Republicans will likely vote no. And then the tiebreaker vote, the 51st vote, will go to the Vice President of the United States, who is Vice President Kamala Harris right now. Now, that is exactly how they passed the third stimulus check package. Not a single Republican voted yes on that package, and the Democrats passed that without the Republicans at all. And they can do that again if they decide to go it alone without Republicans. However, if they do that, they're going to need Senator Joe Manchin to come on board. Now, Senator Joe Manchin did vote yes with the third stimulus check package, and ultimately, about 99% of the time, he does vote with the Democrats. But, and he did this last time around, he said, oh, I don't really want to do reconciliation. But at the end of the day, they did kind of come to some concessions with him, and he did vote with the Democrats. We will ultimately see that happen again. But it would be better for both Congress and for getting Joe Manchin on board if they can pass the infrastructure package with bipartisan support, both Republicans and Democrats coming together to pass that. They can pass that quicker. They can have that passed this week. It'll create millions of jobs. It'll be really good for our country. And then they can move on very quickly to the next stimulus package, which probably has about a 95 to 99% chance that the Democrats are going to have to pass that one on their own with the reconciliation process. And this is simply because not a single Republican voted yes on the third stimulus check package. So why would they vote yes on the fourth stimulus check package? It only just kind of makes sense, right? So this week is going to be a very big week regarding stimulus news, the infrastructure package news, what is going to happen. We're going to be hearing a lot of details on how they're going to end up passing these next two packages, as well as what will be in the next stimulus package. President Biden has been actually pretty good talking here about the fourth stimulus check here over the last few days. Over the last like 5 to 7 days, he's actually come out in favorable support of another stimulus check and says that he is open to a fourth stimulus check. As well as him being over in the United Kingdom right now for the G7 World Conference with the seven country leaders, the United States being one of them, the UK being another one. And they have actually come to an agreement that all seven countries are going to continue to pass more stimulus for the rest of this year. So A, it's really good for us if you're looking forward to more stimulus and more stimulus packages. And B, it's good because it won't really devalue our dollar. If other countries around the world continue to pass more stimulus for the rest of the year at the bare minimum, that will be good for our dollar. It won't devalue our dollar compared to other currencies across the world. And 2008, 2009, that recession took us 4 to 5 years for us to recover, both in unemployment and other economic measures. And we're just not going to recover from the, even if the virus is completely gone, we're not going to be back economically to where we were before the pandemic. Probably anytime this year. It's just going to take a lot more than a few months to recover. And this is why President Biden has said that the weak jobs report from April and May makes it clear the need for more stimulus, and we need to continue to pass more stimulus through these next two programs. And Biden and White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki have said that a fourth stimulus check or monthly recurring stimulus checks is up to Congress if they want to put it in there, but that Joe Biden is actually open to a fourth stimulus check. The good news is that Democrats in Congress are in support of a fourth stimulus check. Dozens and dozens of them, nearing 100 now in the House of Representatives, as well as over half of the Democrats in the Senate actually want monthly recurring stimulus checks to be included in this next infrastructure or the next stimulus package. If they don't pass them as one package, it'll likely come in the next stimulus package, which is named the American Families Plan. Senator Bernie Sanders and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer are both in favor of and are co-signers of the bill that has been signed by them for a $2,000 monthly stimulus check. They have written a letter to President Biden and have signed it along with 28 other senators for $2,000 monthly stimulus checks that would go until the pandemic is declared over. The bill from the U.S. House of Representatives is for a one-time $2,000 stimulus check followed by $1,000 monthly recurring payments that would go until 1 year after the crisis is over. And this goes exactly with what we were saying here, is that the economic crisis is going to continue on, likely for several different years. So even if the virus is gone, they want to pay these $1,000 monthly stimulus checks until 1 year after the end of the crisis or the end of the pandemic. Another fear that a lot of people are really worried about right now is inflation. As we are seeing inflation as we come out of this economic recession or economic depression, it is somewhat natural for us to see inflation as you come out of a low point, a depression or a recession. And we are seeing, at least at the bare minimum, a temporary surge in inflation. We had a 5% surge in inflation for the month of May as compared to the year before, which is when we were in the Depression. And this goes back all the way back to 2008. It was the last time we seen levels this high. Again, 2008, 2009 was when we had the last recession and wanted to come out of it. And this is a somewhat normal thing that happens from a recession or depression when you're trying to come out of it. But nonetheless, we are seeing multiple different reports of inflation costs in food, in goods, in services, in things that you might buy at the store. And there's multiple different reasons for this. One of them being is that shipping costs are very, very, very expensive. If you don't know this, the average product at Walmart, not counting food, you can see here in America, estimates say that Chinese suppliers make up to 70 or 80% of Walmart's merchandise, leaving less than 20% for American made products. So, what does this mean? Well, the reality of kind of just the way the world is today, when you walked on an aisle of Walmart or a sporting goods store, any store that's not like fresh food, 8 out of 10 of them, or 7 out of 10 of every single item, probably came from China. The reason for that is because I know this because I source products from for my Amazon business, and I try to source them here in the United States. But whenever you try to go and source a product here in the United States that you might want to sell on Amazon, compared to China, sourcing the same product here in the United States is normally 2 to 3 times more expensive than it would be getting the exact same product from China. So I always try to get products in the United States, but the problem is if you have to pay 2 to 3 times more for a product to get it made here in America, you have to charge 2 or 3 times more. I mean, maybe a little bit less, but you have to charge more than double to make your product competitive, or you have to put "Made in America" on it and hope that people will be willing to pay more than double for the same exact type of product than they get in China. And that's why we see in Walmart, when you look at hundreds and thousands of different products, and Walmart's just an example, right? Go to any store that has physical products, and you're going to see, just go down the line and look at, turn it around in the back and look and see what, if it says "Made in America" or "Made in China" or "Made in Taiwan." And the reality of it is that the majority of products are just made overseas because the cost of labor in the United States, especially now that they want to do $15 an hour minimum wage, and we're seeing that across multiple different corporations raise that, as well as some states do that. When you compare that to other countries like China, it's just way, way cheaper. I mean, they're paying, pennies on the dollar compared to what people pay here in the United States. Now, the Senate just approved a $250 billion bill to kind of curtail this and to bring a lot of American jobs back home, which is a really good thing, and to help bring chip manufacturing back home to the United States. There's a worldwide chip shortage right now, along with the automobile shortage, housing shortage, and lumber shortage, among all types of different shortages that we're dealing with right now from the pandemic. If you've seen the price of lumber, it's insane right now. It's like 5 times the cost of what it was last year. And like chips, computer chips that are in every electronic, your phone, your computer, your TV, your car, unless your car is like 20 or 30 years old, you have computer chips all throughout that car. And the problem is that they're almost all made overseas in like Taiwan and China and not made in the United States. So the Senate just passed this $250 billion bill to bring those jobs back home and to incentivize companies to produce them here and to create hopefully millions of jobs, and also to get rid of our dependency on China when it comes to crucial products like chip shortages or computer chips. Because if China suddenly, if we got into a trade war with China and China said, well, we're not going to give you any more computer chips, we'd be in big trouble because we wouldn't be able to produce cars and computers and phones. And, the majority of phones are already made in China, right? So we'd be in a big problem. And that's why we need to start bringing more jobs back home, but try to be competitive with prices around the world. Because if you look at companies like Apple, if they can make a smartphone in China for $200, and through all the different costs they end up selling it for $7.99 or $8.99, through all their different shipping and markups, paying for their employees, paying their rent and all that stuff. So if that phone costs them $200 to make or $300 to make in China, but over here in the US it costs $600 to make or $700 to make, that same phone that sells for $7.99 would have to be charged like $15.99 to make the same margins. And that's why we just don't see smartphones even produced here in the United States hardly at all, because they can't be competitive. And another reason why inflation is spiking up right now is that shipping costs are really high and are spiking up. And anything that's shipped over via a ship is there's a large shipping cost on it right now, so it's costing more, which means the manufacturers are going to charge more for it, and it's going to cost you more in the store. As you can see here, a skyrocketing price of shipping goods across the globe may hit your pocketbook sooner than you think. From that cup of coffee you get each morning to the toys you were thinking about buying your kids. Transporting a 40-foot steel container of cargo, any type of cargo, by sea from Shanghai to Rotterdam now costs a record $10,522, a whopping 540% higher than the seasonal average of what it was 5 years ago, according to DRI Shipping. With upwards of 80% of all goods transported by sea, freight cost surges are threatening to boost the price of everything from toys, furniture, and car parts to coffee, sugar, anchovies, and compounding concerns in global markets already bracing for accelerating inflation. Gary Grant, the founder of a UK toy shop, says, quote, in 40 years in toy retailing, I have never known such a challenging conditions from the point of view of shipping and pricing. And whether you like it or not, this is one of those kind of things that is influencing inflation right now. Shipping costs, everything being produced overseas, having to ship that over here, chip shortages, lumber shortages, even housing shortages here in the United States. So by the Senate passing this $250 billion bill, which now goes to the House, I don't believe the House has voted on it yet. The House might want to change it because they kind of have their own ideas on a bill. And we know that the House and Senate can change bills and then send them back to be voted on. We've seen that in the third stimulus check package. That they're at least trying to bring more jobs back to the United States. They don't need to be shipped, can be made here in the US and become, at least partially, make us less reliant on companies or countries like China. And that is a part of the reason why we're seeing such bad inflation. We're probably going to see some temporary inflation as we come out of this recession, out of this depression, which is at least somewhat normal if you look back on historic data based on previous recessions and depressions. When you come out of a recession, you just tend to see some temporary inflation. It's just kind of a, hey, things are accelerating. You're coming back out of the low. When you go into a recession or a depression, prices tend to go down, because, again, supply and demand. When we look last year at gas prices during the shutdown, gas prices plummeted because, well, the country was shut down and nobody was going to work, and supply and demand showed gas prices go, woo. Now that demand is coming back up, gas prices are going back up. So the problem is that we're seeing shortages as well, like lumber shortages, chip shortages, and that will really skew things. Like even if demand is down, if there's a shortage, the shortage can overwhelm the demand, even if it's down, and send spikes, prices skyrocketing. And that is a big concern right now. The one good thing that could come out of this temporary inflation, a couple of things, is one, more stimulus. Democrats want to pass more stimulus checks, more monthly stimulus checks, more child tax credits, Social Security raises, Medicare raises, to help curtail this temporary inflation that we're dealing with by adding more stimulus money in your pocket, as well as we're probably going to see a much higher cost of living adjustment, COLA adjustment to Social Security here for the next year. Last year, we only had a 1.3% increase, which is pretty tiny. This time, we're likely to see a much higher increase, probably somewhere around 5%, which is like 4 times higher than the increase from last time. So that will help a little bit and put a little bit more money in your pocket to help curtail, if you're on Social Security, these temporary inflation spikes that we're seeing. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Are you seeing inflation? Are you seeing higher food prices? Lumber prices, the prices on cars right now are insane. A lot of cars are actually selling for over MSRP because there's cars are selling as fast as they get on the lot in some cases. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'll keep you up to date on everything stimulus related, all these inflation fears, and everything going on here with the United States right now. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new updates, and click the bell icon to all notifications to get reminder notifications when we go live with new videos, which is every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click this video to watch the newest video about state, city, and county stimulus checks and stimulus programs. And this is my newest video on President Biden's Social Security raise. Click on one of those videos yet if you haven't watched them, and I will see you in the next video.